evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's City Council study session, actually a special meeting for Monday, July 13th. We're starting a little early tonight. First, we're going to do an interview for board and commission. For a board and commission, we have tonight Penelope Kaplan. Ms. Kaplan, if you wouldn't mind just coming up to the dais, I'll explain the process here pretty quickly. So good evening, Penelope. Thanks for making time for us tonight. Tonight we're going to ask you 7 questions. We'll go ahead and I'll start off with the first question here, and then I'll go around the room. Over the course of those 7 questions, you have 10 minutes. At 9 minutes, I'll let you know that there's 1 minute remaining. If there's any time remaining at the end, you could ask any questions of us. So are you ready to begin? Perfect. Actually, do you want to press the button to make that mic green? I will keep time here as well.
You make that up for you, and then there you go.
Perfect. All right. So Penelope, my first question for you is, what motivates you to apply for an Inglewood board at this time?
I don't know. I thought it would be cool, I guess.
You're pretty active today on within the high school and with other parts of the in your young life, correct?
Sorry?
You're already pretty active within your high school, middle school, and as
yeah.
other. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just want to apply that to the city as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Penelope. Mayor Pro Tem, you get the next question.
Hi, Penelope. I'm Joe Anderson,
Hi.
Mayor Pro Tem, District 3 Council Member. Nice to meet you this evening.
Hi.
Thanks for coming out. My question is, what knowledge and skills or abilities would you bring to the board or commission, and how would Inglewood benefit from you serving on that board?
Well, I guess like having a youth member, like someone in the schools would help, I guess.
Yeah, very good.
Member Prang.
Hey, thank you. Good evening, Penelope. I'm Tina Prang. I'm one of the at-large council members. My question for you is, I'm going to ask you to describe an experience in the past where you worked in a group of people with diverse and sometimes opposing viewpoints and perspectives.
I did I'm not sure what it was called. It was like I'm not sure what it was called. It was the Cherry Creek Moving Art Festival in EMS. A docent, that's what it was. And I did that. Yeah.
And you had to work with a lot of people that had different perspectives on how to approach doing that?
Yeah, we did, it was like a lot of different perspectives on art.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Penelope. I'm Rick Summerson, the District 1 City Councilor. I have the hardest question, so you ready?
Yeah.
What do you like most about Englewood?
I like how it's pretty walkable. And kind of how like there's a lot of different like art pieces around Inglewood, and that it's walkable and that I can feel safe walking around my neighborhood.
Thank you.
Hey, Penelope. Thanks for being here tonight. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
My name is Jack. I'm from District 2. My question is, what would you like to see improved in Inglewood regarding the boards and commissions that you'd like to?
I think like that Bellevue strip. Like a bit more cleanly, I guess. Cleanliness.
Great answer.
Green.
Thank you.
Evening, I'm Steve Ward. I'm your District 4 Council Representative. And my question for you is, are you able to attend?
Yeah.
Great.
Good evening, I'm Councilmember Russell, and it's very nice to have you here this evening.
Thank you.
I'm an at-large council member. How will your service on this board or commission benefit you as an Inglewood citizen, either personally or professionally?
I think having like an opinion in Inglewood would really help improve like how like safe it is for people and like how the schools are yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Members of council, Penelope, I guess one question I have is there a preference in youth boards that you would want to sit on? Would it be cultural arts, Parks and Rec, or library?
I'd like to do the cultural arts, but I think all of them would be cool.
Perfect. And cultural arts meets on Wednesdays, correct? Is it Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month, so you wouldn't have any issue making that one? I want to say they start at 5:30, 5 or 5:30?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, perfect. Penelope, do you happen to have any questions for us?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, Penelope, thank you very much for your time tonight. You did fantastic. What we're going to do is we had to make a decision on Monday night on which board to sit you on. Obviously, since there's no youth members currently on the 3 boards, then cultural arts, since that's your preference, is the one that we would just vote on to make sure that we get you seated. And if you do get seated, your first meeting will be next month, so the month of August.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
Penelope, thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you very much for your willingness to continue to serve the city of Inglewood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, everyone, we have about 7 minutes before we kick off the rest of the agenda for tonight, so we'll just recess until that point. Thank you very much. Well, there's no one else.
Oh, yeah.
Probably should
We just start talking by ourselves.
All right, members of council and the public, we are now back. I call this meeting to order. If you're able to do so, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, if you could please take a roll call.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Present?
Member Bethel.
Present?
Member Prang.
Present.
Member Russell.
Present.
Member Somerson.
Present.
Member Ward.
Present.
Mayor Sierra.
Present.
Let the record show all 7 are present.
Thank you very much. We have 3 agenda items for tonight. Up first is our golf manager, Shannon Bucho, and golf course superintendent Jeremiah Stump, here to provide a video update on the recent completed drainage and soil remediation project. Good evening. Yep, just there you go. All set to go.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for making the time to see an update on our exciting drainage and soil remediation project at Broken T. And so I am Jeremiah Stump. I'm the golf course superintendent at Broken T, and then with me presenting is Shannon Buccio, our golf manager. All right, so for starters, the project was completed on time. May 6th was actually the completion date on the contract. May 8th was the substantial completion date, so we finished 2 days early. The original contract amount was $997,697.17. There were 2 small change orders just when we got towards the end of the project. A lot of materials, just truing up actual materials that we used. We ended up over 0.38% over budget, so $4,523 over budget on a $1 million project, which we were really happy with that. And so to make this, I have to shout out Lauren Lang, our videographer. She helped, we put together a couple of videos to wrap up the project, talk about the process, and shows a lot of pictures and videos of the guys actually working out there. So that's what we're going to show you here. Through 6. So holes 1 through 6, the par 3 and the driving range was built on an old trash dump. Because the landfill was sealed off, inherently it was made to not drain so that water and everything else does not go down into the dump. So every time it rained, every time we watered, the water would pool up. In the summertime when it's hot, that would kill the grass. We'd have puddles of water. It would be muddy in one spot, dry in another. So this project's fixing it a couple ways. So behind me, that is the first step of the construction process. So myself and Rick Phelps, our golf course architect, went out and marked the areas for them to excavate. We broke ground on January 29th, and so what they're doing with an excavator is removing the top 6 inches of soil and hauling it over to hole number 11 and also the driving range. So once they strip it down, then we go in and we mark the drain lines, and then they come in with another excavator and create a 12 by 12 trench. That's where they're going to put the drain pipe. Every 15 feet, they put our custom root zone blend down on top of that and compact it and then get it ready for sod. And then the next step is we put sod down. So the popularity of Broken T has really increased the need for this soil to be replaced and added drainage in our traffic areas. So we do 80 to 90,000 rounds a year. That's a lot of car traffic. That's a lot of people traffic. And due to the high clay soils out here, it's become super compacted. So we have been putting money away in our savings to save for this project. And this project in total is $997,000. The immediate improvement is going to be when you hit your ball in the fairway, you'll get to hit your ball into the green off of grass.
Today is the first day that the front 9 course is open, so now our full championship course is open. We just got done with a major renovation project to improve drainage and our soil on the first 6 holes, and today's the day that we finally got everything open. We've been anxiously awaiting this day, and it's wonderful that it's here. I think overall, just being able to reinvest back into our facility and our course is huge. Just enjoy it so much that we were able to have this opportunity and be financially stable to do this, and that it was completed on time.
Yeah, the clubs and leagues have been very positive. They're really excited to hit their ball in the fairway and hit off of grass and not have to play lift, clean, in place or move their ball to a grassy area. Now when they, hit it in the landing area, there is turf there now. I'm really happy with how it all went. It went really smooth, and looking at how we did it, what we planned for, I think it's going to be a long-term fix for the issues here at Broken Tee.
Perfect. So that was our video there. So next I went to each location and took some pictures, before and after pictures. I tried to take a picture from the same spot that I took the before picture. So this is hole number 1 before, and then this is hole number 1. This was a couple weeks ago. I think a picture speaks 1,000 words there. Shows the improvements. And that's, 2 months after we've been open, so it's holding up to the traffic, and the turf is healthy. So then here's hole number 2. Same thing, quite a bit of improvement there. Hole number 3. Hole number 4. And then hole number 6 was always one of our biggest challenges at Broken Tee, just with the soil. And so I took a little different picture here. This was with our drone software that you guys will learn a little bit more in my next presentation, our sustainability and water usage. So that was before, and then this is now. There are still some areas we had to go. We did have to pick and choose. We couldn't do the entire fairway. We had a budget. We had, so we didn't do. So there are still a few areas that we're fixing along the way. So that's what you can kind of see there around the edges. But this is what you see from the fairway. So quite a big difference. These were some Google reviews that I had brought in my original presentation in January. A lot of them reference the back 9's great, the front 9 is not as great. And so we actually received, so I grabbed some Google reviews over the last month. We've been open for just a little over 2 months now, and people are starting to notice. Word's starting to get out. We're seeing that in utilization rates. The tee sheet is more full than it was, this time last year. And it's nice to see good positive reviews. It's, that's the easiest for a golf course. That's how we get our patrons to come out, as word of mouth. Everybody plays all the golf courses in Denver, and if we're known as one of the better ones, we'll get more of the market share on that. Little recognition, for starters, you guys, thank you for approving the project, and it's really made a big step, improved Broken Tee. Shannon, our general manager, Adrian and Christina, our team, our director team in Parks, Rec, Library, and Golf. Our procurement team, I have to shout out to them. They helped us with the procurement process. Big help through the whole process. Really, Rick Phelps, our golf course architect. Verde Sports Construction, our contractor. And I did have one thing for you, Councilmember Bethel. You had asked me on, was that January 5th on our initial about their zero-scape experience. And they actually have an employee on staff, that's all he does. So they do a lot of projects in the desert where they're, reducing turf reduction and putting in drip lines and native plants that use less water and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to provide you with an answer on that from 4 months ago. So, and then, our golf course maintenance team, huge shout out to them, maintenance and operations, having the front 9 closed. It was a bit of it was logistically kind of a struggle some days. And our maintenance team actually did some additional projects while we had the front 9 closed. So we did a few other things to take advantage of that. And then you saw some of the signs in the video. Our Vanessa Davis and our communications team have helped us a ton in our Better Broken Tee marketing campaign to make sure that patrons know what to expect when they come to Broken Tee and also get the word out. And thank you guys. Thank you all for your time. Do you guys have any questions or feedback?
Mr. Stump, Ms. Buccio, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for the great work at Broken Tee. I'll open up to questions from members of council if there are any. I guess just one question. I think it was answered back in January. I thought you guys came back earlier than that. I thought you came sometime late last year. But regardless, there's no other holes that have this same type of condition at Broken Tee. This was the extent of the issues that we were encountering there with poor soil drainage, correct? Or are there other, go ahead.
So on, everything on the east side of the river is the old trash dump. So that's 1 through 6, the par 3, the driving range. We do still, we did fix those areas on 1 through 4 and 6. The par 3 still has some, the driving range itself also has all that, the same issues that we were dealing with, but at least now that we focused it on the areas that, that most golfers hit their balls. So.
Thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Stomp. Any further questions for members of council? Again, it looks great. Thank you very much for the work on this, and thanks for bringing this to our attention and having a plan for getting this fixed. So thank you very much for that, to you both.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Jack, I didn't see that light. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Member Bethel.
So I can save this for the next presentation because it probably fits in better there. But I noticed as you're in the presentation you discussed how part of the drainage kind of solution is based around irrigation as well as rain drainage. And I'm wondering if you can speak to how you kind of adjust your irrigation levels based on the amount of drainage that you see is needed. That, how much water runs off during your irrigating process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do address that a little more in depth in the next presentation, but it was all designed to all the extra water that we put down goes into our drainage and goes right back into our ponds. None of our water actually leaves the property. Back 9 and front 9 both go into our irrigation ponds, which then get pumped back out on the golf course. So we're kind of recycling all that extra water.
That's great. Thank you. I really enjoy Broken Tee. You've done a great job there. I like hanging out there after work. It's a really nice place. So to everyone else that hasn't spent much time there, let's go together.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I see no further questions from members of council. So with that, we will move on to the next agenda item. Here we're covering current and planned water conservation measures at Broken Tee Golf Course, including irrigation efficiency efforts. So Mr. Stump, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you again, Mayor and Council. Yes. So with the current drought conditions in Colorado, I thought it'd be important to be out in front of addressing where our water comes from, what we do at the golf course also to make sure that we are using only the amount of water that we need to use and not anything extra. and also touch on some of the things that we're doing sustainability wise to make sure that in the future we're going to be able to continue to water the golf course and have the golf course and have that for our patrons to use, you know, for the community. So again, shout out again to Lauren Lang. Again, we put together another video here to go through what we do. This is a high level overview of it, but we address everything in the video, and then we can talk about kind of questions afterwards on that.
So here at Broken Tee, water is on the top of our mind, and this year we are in especially critical drought conditions. So I thought it'd be really important to make sure that everybody knows where our water comes from. So our main source of water at Broken Tee is our wells. So our wells, 6 wells on property, pump water into the irrigation ponds. This is not drinking water, it's all non-potable irrigation water. Then from the irrigation ponds, the water is pumped out onto the golf course through the sprinkler heads. From there, any extra water is filtered through the soil and the turf into the drainage and then back into our irrigation ponds, all one big cycle. Our philosophy here at Broken Tee is deep and infrequent water. The reason that we do that is to get the water down deep, drive roots down, creating a healthier turf. So we have 2 highly trained irrigation technicians on staff, but along with that, we have every other staff member is looking for wet spots and dry spots. We use a variety of tools to ensure that we're getting the right amount of water where it needs to go. I'm standing here next to one of our weather stations at Broken Tee. What this does is it transmits a temperature, humidity, rainfall amount, and evapotranspiration back to our irrigation central. The evapotranspiration, or ET, is the amount of moisture that is evaporated out of the soil every day. The weather station keeps track of how much we lose every 24 hours. This helps us determine our irrigation needs for the day. The moisture meter helps us out a lot. It allows us to go spot by spot, check greens, tees, fairways, rough, anywhere that we need, and it tells us the moisture content of the soil. We have a baseline here of anything under 15%. We know that needs to be hand watered. We need to put additional water in that area or it will begin showing wilt before the end of the day. So when we've determined that hand watering is necessary, we go out with the moisture meter and we double check. We make sure we find all the dry spots, make a note, take 10 or 15 readings with the moisture meter, and then plug in the hose and hand water only the spots that need water. In order to minimize our hand watering, we use wetting agents, which allow us to significantly reduce the water usage on greens. So we put wetting agents down every 2 weeks. We can see the difference in water usage with wetting agents when we fly the drone. The drone technology has been a game changer. It allows us to generate stress maps of the golf course from above. So we have colors from green, which is good, healthy turf. So we have our yellow, which is our invisible stress. So these are the areas that may look good to the naked eye, but they're under some sort of stress. Then we have orange, which is visible stress. So we see that. And then we have red, which is severely stressed turf. At Broken Tee, we have 100 acres of irrigated turf, which is watered by 2,500 sprinkler heads. We can control each head individually with the irrigation computer. So how we use this to help us set up the irrigation system is I can go to this sprinkler head, select it, takes it back to the control system, and then I can turn it up to, well, we'll turn it up an extra 20%. And then with our drone data, we do these flights weekly, and this allows us to see the changes over time. So we fly the drone once or twice a week, and it takes a picture of every square inch of the property. That bird's eye view allows us to see heads that are not aligned, which then we can send our crew over to investigate. It really helps us find leaks as well. We've identified many leaks from our drone footage and got them fixed within the next day. Yeah, so this year in 2026, we are expanding some native areas. We're adding about 5 acres of native grass, which we anticipate will save us about 5 million gallons of water. The 5 acres that we're converting over to native turf are areas on the sides of holes, in between holes, areas where a ball is less likely to end up, because it is a little bit harder to find your golf ball in the native because it's longer. Today we've talked about all the technology and tools that we use here at Broken Tee to make sure that we are being as environmentally sustainable and conscious as possible. Water management isn't just an operational task. It's an absolute way of life for environmental and economic sustainability here at Broken Tee. Every drop matters.
Perfect. So a couple of things that I wanted to add to that after I made the video. My assistant, Paul, I have to give him a little shout out. He reminded me one thing that I missed in the video is we actually have a rain sensor tied to our weather station. So when it, like for instance, the big rain that we got 3 weeks ago, the system shut itself off at 9:30 at night because we got 1.5 inches of rain in like 30 minutes. And so it automatically shuts off to make sure that we're not running water when we don't need it. So, and then one thing I did want to highlight, we are trying to convert as much area as we can to non-irrigated turf. And out of the 160 acre property, about 60 acres of the property is non-irrigated turf. So that's 37.5% of our property is non-irrigated. So we are, able to focus the water on the maintained turf areas and try to save Colorado as much water as we can. So, do you have anything to add, Shannon? Okay.
I would like to add something, Mayor, if I could. I just want to thank Shannon and Jeremiah. If their knowledge of turf, of irrigation, of systems, of soil, of drainage, we haven't had this level of expertise in a long time, and it took years to get to the project that we showed you in the first item, and then just a tremendous amount of dedication from Jeremiah and his team to be able to do all this reporting and data collection and report it out. And I just want to say thank you. I'm sure you've missed some birthday parties and camping trips and other things, but thank you for the incredible work that you're doing, and Shannon for your leadership at the course.
All right, I would agree with that. I remember when you first gave the presentation, and I believe you brought in an outside representative as well as part of that presentation, but just the knowledge of what needed to be done for this course in order to improve it came through in that presentation. So thank you both for all the work that you did on this. I'll open it up to questions from members of council on the second study session item. Any questions? Member Pring.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation and for the forward thinking about communicating the sustainable methods that you use on the golf course. First, I'm going to ask you a silly question. Can I use your weather stations and drones so that my tomato plants, I can catch it before the plant's actually stressed? Funny joke, but pretty cool technology that you're using there. I really appreciated learning about that. My question is about just how you use this information. One, the videos that you've had produced are pretty nice quality. Is there anything like on our website or ways that you communicate out your sustainable efforts to, I think maybe potentially even attract more people to want to use our golf course? I think in times like this, when people are very mindful around drought conditions, the attractiveness of being able to use a course that really is dedicated to those efforts could be very attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with our Better Broken Tee campaign, I think that is something that an update that I think is necessary here. We wanted to get this to you guys first, and then we'll start communicating that outward. I agree. I think it will attract people that, because Coloradans are very conscious about our environment and the drought and everything that's going on.
I just want to add real quick too, we've already been discussing with the communication team on how we can promote this and get the word out as well. So once we're done here, this will be our next step.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Anything else for members of council? No, I don't see anything else. Oh, why do I not see that? I need you to click on the one, the other one. So, because I just don't see it. It just seems to be blending in with your shirt.
This
Yeah.
one over here.
I think it's blending in with your shirt, so I think that may be the reason. But go ahead, Member Bethel.
Okay. So first off, thank you for all of this work. I know that I asked a few questions in January regarding xeriscaping and how we can be more efficient in our water usage, and it seems like you've really, I think you got started on that before I even asked those questions, obviously. And you've met and exceeded the concerns that I had in that. And a few of these questions I think are also just in curiosity and for explanation to some of the residents. So can you explain a little bit about our, what times of the day you water the courses and how that relates to the capacities of our irrigation pumps?
Yeah, yeah. So we water overnight. So the irrigation cycle starts right after sunset, about 10 minutes after sunset, and runs until it's finished. Which typically it's done between 2 and 3 a.m. That gives it. We do have 2 pump stations, one for each side of the river, which makes it really efficient that way. That allows us to get the water down, and then allow it to dry down a little bit so that there's not as much standing, there's not a bunch of wet areas when golfers start at 6 a.m. And then sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I think you nailed it. It's pump capacities. I see a lot of like Denver parks that are watering during the day because their irrigation system pumps can't handle the amount of coverage that they need to get. So they have to water at, the high evaporation periods of the day, like, 1 p.m., 3 p.m. or something. But it seems like you've planned ahead and have the capacity to avoid that.
Absolutely, yeah. The only time that people will see sprinklers on during the day would be first thing in the morning. We do go around first thing in the morning and just with the moisture meter check and run a little bit extra in some of the drier spots. We do try to minimize that as best we can, but that's from between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. That's before golfers really get out there on the course. And then any hand watering that's done after that is all just hand watering. Would just be, 3 or 4 guys with a hose just watering the spots, the areas that need it.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
My next question, I think it relates to how we kind of promote Broken Tee as a destination for xeriscape golfing. I know that we're not quite on the national radar like Stone Eagle or some of these big desert courses, but I think that we're on our way in terms of water conservation efforts. Are there courses that you look up to that you'd like to see us kind of emulate in their marketing strategies?
Gosh, I know that one thing that's really big for a lot of golf courses is the Audubon certification. That kind of ties in sustainability, wildlife, kind of making a nature sanctuary as well as, a focus on sustainability. Locally, I would say Walnut Creek is a course that Walnut Creek Preserve is what they changed their name to 4 or 5 years ago, and they really focus on communicating out their water efforts to the city of Westminster. And so I think I look up to those guys. I know both of the superintendents there really well, and I think we could help use some of their, emulate some of their communication.
That's great. Thank you for that insight.
All right. Any further questions for members of council? I think this time I am not seeing anything. So with that, Shannon, Jeremiah, thank you very much to you, to your team. Thank you very much for the 2 presentations tonight. Really appreciate it. So thank you very much, everyone. All right, we're moving on to the third agenda item for tonight. We have our Director of Public Works, Victor Rochelle, Deputy Director of Engineering and Asset Management, Ryan Crum, as well as our City Engineer, Kyle Branham, here to provide updates on the Standards and Specifications Manual. Good evening, Victor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us here tonight. With me, I have Ryan Crum, our Deputy Director of Engineering and Asset Management. We also have Thomas Shaw, our Traffic Engineering Manager. Our City Engineer, Kyle Branham, is out of town, and unable to make it tonight. Tonight, we're presenting just an update on our specifications manual. The last time we did an update was in 2020. So as we work through the manual, we engage with developers, we advance capital projects. There are things that are identified as improvements, both for ease of use and then also just trying to stay up with the latest construction standards that are just that, standards within the industry. So the updates today include those kinds of things, and I'm going to turn it over to Ryan to walk you through the presentation. After tonight, pending today's discussion, we will come back to council for a formal adoption during a formal council session. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So a little bit about the history. The current design and construction standards and details, as Victor mentioned, were adopted in March of 2020, right before the pandemic there. So since about that time, oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here. These specifications here really dictate what is required in the construction phase of things. They do talk about various things that are required for submittals of design, things that we need to see in construction. Staff has been working on this since about 2024 or 2025 to go through and make some edits and revisions. Some of the revisions that are needed here, we took a good look at trying to increase the user experience, correcting errors and omissions. There was a fair amount of traffic engineering updates, some general engineering and construction updates, and then standard detail drawings. So I'll speak about all of those in a little further detail. Traffic engineering, some of the changes that were made to those, uniform traffic control or UTC near traffic signals. This document had called out previously a stringent requirement for that, and we decided to change that language a little bit to be something that gave us the power to look at certain situations and dictate what those situations call for and allow us to make those calls. And then kind of going forward with some of that, the majority of the edits that were in here changed specific language that was in there, and we created a reference or changed the specific language to reference those certain criterias. So as those other guiding documents change, we do not have to update our documents. It kind of allows us to just reference the current version of those different guiding documents. Some changes to the general engineering section. We did add language which now allows for the use of polypropylene pipe for stormwater construction. There was some clarification to different Excel lighting, one of which was metal halide to go along with LED in some of that section there. And then there was a fair amount of other edits that were made to other industry standards, Municipal Government Pavement Engineering Council, MEGPEC, and some of the other design criteria for highway and street design. And then talking about standard drawings, there was some drawings in there that were very seldom used, and then others that needed other clarification. And then we also were able to take this opportunity to pull in standards from CDOT and DOTI that are just more kind of people in the area understand those standards and details. So we were able to not have to recreate that and just reference those. And then the picture on the right is a standard detail for trenching and repair. We added that into our documents. So very high level, happy to answer any questions. The document is 250 pages, so happy to go into any detail, any questions you might have on those.
Mr. Crum, thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions from members of council? Member Russell.
Thank you for the presentation. So I'm just curious, in this document, does it also talk about when street construction and how to accommodate the public? I guess what I'm asking is Dartmouth is a mess. And I mean, the other day we're driving down Dartmouth and my husband says, look, the sidewalk's closed here. The sidewalk was closed on the other side of the street also, not just on one. And we have handicapped people. Is it written down anywhere, maybe not here, about some things that I would call common sense, and I don't know why we're doing it all at once instead of just going down the street and then coming back.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Russell, for the question. So specific to kind of more means and methods, those would be covered under our permit language itself, not necessarily in the document. When we talk about traffic control, just high level, the signage required, the size, the lettering, that would be covered under the manual for uniform traffic control devices. So thank you for the feedback. We'll definitely look into that, and I agree with you. There should be a clear path. If we're going to close sidewalk on one side, there should be a detour in place that directs pedestrians where they need to go and work through the construction zone and end up on the other side with appropriate crossings and things of that nature.
So is this more about general construction and, like depths or different things like that?
Correct. This is more the design criteria for drawings, a little bit of the means and methods. As Ryan touched on, we do have some details in there. There's the trenching detail. There's actually a fair number of details on how construction should be done, repairs and things of that nature, so that contractors know the expectation when they're building roads, curb and gutter, sidewalk, et cetera, within our community.
So this is really more so for contractors that are building in the city?
Contractors and design engineers. So if a design engineer is building something within the city, this would be used during their design phase as well to make sure that they're accounting for the correct widths, the depths, and things of that nature, depending on what the infrastructure is that's going in.
Okay. So does it also, then is that helpful for city staff to make sure that the contractors are doing what the specifications call for?
Absolutely. Yes, it definitely goes both ways. Because it spells out what we should be checking for. It also spells out what they should be building, what they should be designing. Our design engineers, when they're reviewing plans, are also referencing this document in addition to city code, development requirements, and a couple other documents.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Member Ward.
Just out of curiosity, what is the purpose of incorporating the Denver DOT standards?
I think it does a couple of things, in my opinion. The Denver has the staff to update those a little more frequently, and is also usually, in my experience here, they're setting the standard for what a lot of other municipalities are usually basing it on. As a bigger municipality, it's easier to adopt. It's similar to CDOT, adopting a very similar standard of things with there. So that's where we had some traffic signal details in there that I think we removed, and we're just referencing them because it was something that was not done in Inglewood very often, just on the number of traffic signals that are here versus Denver. And so it was just kind of not necessary, and it's hard to keep current with things that get updated.
Do the Denver standards deviate substantially from the CDOT standards?
Sometimes, depending. I will say there's certain differences on, for example, ADA ramps. There is a difference between CDOT's philosophy and DOTI's.
I suppose I'll defer to your professional judgment there, but I wonder, just as a member of the legislative body of this city, if we are doing ourselves a service or a disservice by adopting the standards of another city and using those as our North Star.
I think I would caveat that by saying we are not adopting everything completely. We are specifically calling out certain parts of them for our details here. We're calling out, for instance, manhole depths and manhole requirements. So they put a lot of thought and spent a lot of money designing on how you would construct a manhole for storm sewer or sanitary sewer, of how it would be designed and constructed in the field. And so they've taken that liability on, is maybe a better way to put it, as opposed to us having to pay a consultant or have somebody on our staff designing and having all of those calculations in hand and certifying that.
And if Denver changes the standard in the future and we have incorporated their standards by reference, is the end result not sort of a hodgepodge of design across the city over time?
I guess, yeah, I could see that, yes.
Okay, that would be another risk that would concern me. I think consistency is helpful to me as I navigate the city, and I feel like it may be to my constituency as well. And to the extent that we're changing things or things are constantly in flux or may be in flux, it's challenging to kind of know what to expect as you're traveling.
Sure. And I think that's why we are updating this now, 6 years later. Those specific details from DOTI haven't changed in many years. There's very minimal change to it. Usually any of the changes through there are where is that you can make things more efficient, where you're using stronger rebar, less concrete, those types of things, but the general thought along them is very consistent usually. So I think that between DOTI and CDOT, the things that we're referencing, it's a lot of the other municipalities and contractors. They're all very familiar with those details. And it is kind of like an industry standard type of approach.
Great, thank you. I wonder if there might be some sort of place for DRCOG in that process. Being a sort of regional quasi-governmental organization, if municipalities are willing to adopt universal standards rather than having Denver be the North Star, maybe something along the lines of something for DRCOG, but I guess that would be a future discussion. But it helps me to understand the rationality behind that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, thank you. Since you brought up ADA ramps, are the changes we're making to the ADA ramps significant? And I guess why I'm asking that, is it going to require that we go back and replace a lot of them that have just been constructed?
Yeah, to my knowledge, we are not changing any of the ADA standards. This update is not changing any of those.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Crum, one question for me. The MUTCD is mentioned quite often within this report. Refresh my memory, is that a minimum set of standards or set of requirements that they're stating? For instance, I'm just trying to figure out if we'll use the example on Oxford, the light crossing, are we going with the hawk lighting on? Yeah, there's gonna be a hawk light on. But I believe early on when we were first looking to design that project, it fell outside of MUTCD, if I remember correctly. I guess what I'm asking here is, this doesn't prevent us, by referencing MUTCD frequently, that doesn't prevent us from actually putting in a more, moving forward with the project just because it doesn't conform to their standards. Does that make sense? If we want to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of traffic calming, we can do that even though we're referencing the MUTCD.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for the question. Yes, and these updates are really a couple of different aspects. One, not referencing a specific version of the MUTCD. A new version, newish version, came out, I believe, a couple of years ago. So making sure that the document, not only with respect to the MUTCD, but also something called the Green Book, that we reference the latest edition throughout our manuals instead of the, say, 2020, 2018 version, so that our manual doesn't have to be updated as frequently if something were to change midstream before we get to our next update. So these updates build in that kind of continuation of the standards to make sure that we can always reference the latest and greatest. I also believe that under city charter, we have certain flexibilities to take certain positions on how we advance projects and look at those standards. So this manual doesn't specifically call out one way or another when it comes to things like signal warrants. It's just referencing the latest edition of the MUTCD as published out in by the feds.
Okay, you answered that question, Director. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Member Bethel.
So you mentioned working with XL, or at least updating guidelines with LEDs and bring up my notes here. And the metal halide bulbs. I'm assuming we're phasing out metal halide bulbs. Is that the goal with that, or?
Yeah, city projects, we're putting in LEDs.
Great.
Throughout our community, don't know the exact percentage, but a substantial amount, if not the vast majority, are currently Xcel-owned streetlights, except along the Broadway corridor. We have some along Inglewood Parkway, and then we're coordinating with parks within the parks and park boundaries to look to go to LED at some point here in the future. But as developments come in, we want to make sure that we have some consistency if developers are putting in lights, either that they're going to own and maintain, Xcel is going to take over, or the city's going to take over, so that we, from a maintenance perspective, have some ease. And we also want the color temperature to be as consistent as possible for the driver's experience. You know, you don't want to go through a more yellowish tone back to that kind of stark white and then back again. That can strain driver's eyes at night.
Thank you. Color temperature was my next question.
Yep.
I appreciate that. And to that question, have we had success in asking XL to update their lights or change their color temperature or wattage?
Yeah, great question. Mel England, our sustainability coordinator, I believe just received some information from Xcel. I apologize, I don't have it at my fingertips, but we're engaging with Xcel to understand what % of LEDs are out in our community, what the status of that is, and I want to say it went to the Sustainability Commission. There was a member there that was requesting some of that, and so we've been engaging with Xcel on it.
That's great. This looks like a very detailed project, so thank you for the work that you put in on it.
All right, I don't see any further questions from members of council. Director Rochelle, Deputy Director Crum, thank you very much for the presentation tonight. And do we see it on the next agenda item coming up this coming Monday, or?
It more than likely will be in August. The next couple of agendas are extremely full, so we'll be bringing it forward, and we'll take some of the feedback from tonight. Thank you for the discussion, and add that to the packet under the analysis, particularly around maybe some of the questions around the DOTI standards, what's in there, what's not in there, and make sure that that's clearly communicated in the council packet for you.
All right, perfect. Sounds great. All right, with that, everyone, that concludes that item. We're going to take a 10-minute break and come back here at 7 p.m. to start the meeting. So thanks again. Re-adjourn, yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, members of the council, if you could please be seated. All right, everyone, we are now back. We're moving on to agenda item 9. This is reports from boards and commission council liaisons. Anybody have anything to add tonight? Member Pring.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have one report, and that is from our very industrious Budget Advisory Committee, who met on July 2nd. And so did not want to take that week off, and they were ready to get down to business. And mainly what they did in their meeting this last round was to elect their new officers, a new chair and co-chair, and then just walked through what their annual report will include so that they're prepared to bring that forward to council. Other than that, Parks and Rec canceled last week for no quorum, and I haven't had anything else scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Prang. Member Russell.
Thank you, and I just have one thing to add to the Budget Advisory Committee. There was a recognition of Laura Cooper, and she is going to be stepping down. And so she's going to be greatly missed. That entire committee is doing an amazing job. So,
Thank you very much to Ms. Cooper for her service to the Budget Advisory Committee in the City of Inglewood. So thank you very much for that note, Member Russell. And Member Prang, anyone else? All right, seeing none, council member's choice. Anyone have anything for tonight? Member Summerson.
Yes, I was wondering if we might be able to have a study session sometime in September or August, late August, early September on voting security. I think some questions are starting to pop up now. There's definitely a lot of interagency work between the Secretary of State's office, Arapahoe County, our city clerk's office here. And I think it would benefit us and the public to have a presentation on those connected parts and what Arapahoe County is doing to protect elections this coming year. So,
Thank you very much, Member Summerson. I have started getting questions on that as well. Anybody opposed to just understanding what the regulations are or what's going to be done in November if anything has changed at all from a city or county perspective? Member Ward? Oh, go ahead.
I think if we do it, we need to make sure that we do it right. And that would be definitely with the involvement of the county and specifically the elections division staff in the county, possibly also a representative from the Secretary of State's office to discuss the picture statewide. I spent a fair amount of time actually at the county count facility as an election watcher in this current primary cycle. And I'm quite familiar with the regulations, but it is very difficult to understand the way the process works unless you actually see it in action. And once you see it in operation, you see the teams of bipartisan election judges working together to do everything from receiving ballots to opening ballots to actively counting ballots to determining what the voter intent was when they adjudicate ballots. And so I think it's obviously a delicate topic. There's no shortage of information, some of which may or may not be accurate, floating around in the community. But I think it would be a valuable discussion to have, provided we are actually getting the information that we need in order to reassure people.
Thank you, Member Ward. Member Russell, do you have something to add on this topic? No, not. It sounds like I would be in favor of having that discussion. I think the concerns that I receive from the public are just in terms of intimidation at the ballot box, just the rhetoric that's coming that you're hearing online about some of the intimidation tactics, or whether or not people will have the ability to vote by mail, that type of thing. Just because there's been just things at the national level that are being discussed that people are wondering, does that affect Colorado at all? That's kind of what I was potentially wanting to clarify as well. But Member Summerson, is there anything different or?
No, and I think to echo Member Ward's contribution, which I think is great, is that it wouldn't need to be the city, it would need to be the state, It would need to be the county. they do work together.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen the work that Member Ward is talking about, other than through Arapahoe County's information that they've pushed out during election cycles, and it is fascinating. It's also, it does show the depth to which the county is doing its job to help do its part for the state in terms of executing free and fair elections. And I think we would all benefit from a better, more comprehensive understanding. And I would assume that all three parties would be able to respond or answer questions about things that are of topical concern, not just general voting security.
Thank you, Member Summerson. I would be in favor of it. Obviously, if members of those, both at the state at the county level, have the time for it, since we're getting so close to the election. So I'd be open to having somebody from staff reaching out. Anybody in disagreement with that? Having as a topic. All right, it looks like we have 4 that are in favor. All right, thank you, Member Summerson. Nothing else from you? No, I think you're good. Member Russell, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the things for council members' choice I actually brought up during one of the presentations, the fact that Dartmouth, west of Broadway, is such a mess. And actually, it's kind of like we didn't have any thought for the bicyclists and the handicap and how they're getting through that street. And so I don't know. I think, I don't know if I want a study session. I think that we need to get more interest taken in the public and how we're disrupting their life across the city. Which reminds me, there is another, I saw it in, I think I saw it in the Friday report, that there's going to be some work on Washington and Pearl in Pennsylvania. It's for the water department. And my concern is shutting off Washington before we're finished with Clarkson and making it inconvenient. And the Clarkson thing I read maybe in the Friday report also is not to be finished until September. And District 3, I think, has probably been hit pretty heavily on a lot of the road work. And people are complaining they can't find a through street to get all the way through. So I think we need to address that. Another thing that's a little bit concerning to me, and Mayor, maybe you know the answer to this, in our, we got an email about the impasse with the union. And is this the first we knew about it? I think in the past, council has always been made aware before we get to the point of impasse. Deputy City Attorney.
So our office did not specifically advise council. I believe the city attorney and the city attorney's reports may have been doing that. I'm not positive about that. But under charter, but by July 1st, when there is an impasse, both parties, which would be the city and then the bargaining unit, are required to let the city clerk know that we are at an impasse and provide each party's essentially last, best, and final offer. So that did take place on July 1st, and then the city clerk transmits that to the city manager. The impasse is over compensation. The city's last, best, and final offer was for a 2% raise. The union, the Englewood Employees Association, their last, best, and final offer was for a 5% raise. So that is the point that the parties are at for an impasse.
And what did you say? We are offering 2%?
Yes, that was the city's offer. The city's offer was for a 2% raise for a 1-year agreement, and the bargaining unit requested a 5% raise for a 1-year agreement.
Okay. I just think that council should have known before this late in the date, because the only reason, you know what? Probably it was in the, it's on the agenda, or we got a list, maybe that was the city attorney's, a list of 3
Right.
hearing
Yes.
Hearing officers, yeah.
So the way, under our charter, the way impasse proceedings work, an arbitrator is selected from the city council. And each side, the city and the employees association need to collaborate to come up with a list of 3 individuals for council selection. And then from those 3, council selects one of those individuals. So that, remains with council. We are required both sides are required to transmit that information by July 10th, which is what we did, and we sent that by email to council. We were trying to get that on the July 6th agenda. The Employees Association recently retained legal counsel, and due to they're wanting to make sure their legal counsel was up to speed and reviewed the arbitrators that we were proposing. That's why you might have seen that come on the agenda and then come off.
Okay.
And that's why it's on the July 20th agenda.
Okay. And council needs to be aware that it's binding arbitration. Whatever the arbitrator decides, we're bound to that, even if we can't afford it. So, anyway, I think it might be a good idea to get some of that information before the last minute so council could weigh in on direction. So, all right, that's, I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Member Pring.
Thank you. Just wanted to build on a little bit of the comments already made on the lead service line replacement, and I feel that we could probably take a look at and strengthen some of the communications of when work is coming back around. So I live in the area that Member Russell discussed, and when we first had the potholing happening and all of that, we got great communication, knew what to expect, signs were put out in advance. Now that they've come back to do the work, there was no communication, not a single communication. And so we had, on the first day of work, people in the street with the machines, weaving in between cars and doing the best that they could. Then by the end of that day, there were some of the signs put out in yards. So I just do think that when the crews are coming back to do the actual work, when they've determined which need to be replaced, that a second notification is appropriate. But I did also want to add on that when I went out and asked, should I move my car? It's in the way of your big drill bit in the middle of the street. Like, I had a couple of questions just to kind of know how to function throughout that week. And the workers were just very, very accommodating and happy to listen to my questions and work with the neighborhood. So I just also wanted to kind of give a kudos to the crew members that are out there on the streets doing the work, that they were just very mindful of concerns that residents might have. Thank you.
And Mayor, would it be okay if we turn that into a council request?
Yes, please,
Just
if
how
you
can
would.
we strengthen the communication? I think it's a good point. They were on my street today, and we had signs saying no one can park on the street, but I guess they're not doing that in all neighborhoods. So
Yeah.
we'll make sure that's consistent and get better communication on the second time out. from
Yeah,
crews.
and Sean, is it possible to add to the Dartmouth construction on west of Broadway? I'm not sure what the completion date is for that work to be done, so can you add that as part of the council request? Thank you. All right, anything else for council members' choice? All right, now the next, I guess it's under city manager's choice, but it's the executive session, so I will go ahead and just read that off. So I move to go into executive session tonight. Executive session for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter regarding the city manager who was previously informed of the meeting pursuant to CRS 24-6402-4F1. No formal action will be taken in the executive session. Present at the executive session are the following persons: Mayor Nathaniel Sierra, Mayor Pro Tem Joe Anderson, council members Jack Bethel, Tina Pring, Rita Russell, Rick Summerson, Stephen Ward, City Manager Sean Lewis, Deputy City Attorney Victoria McDermott. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Pring. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Somerson.
Aye.
Member Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Can I clarify, will Mr. Weisky be going into the, we didn't have that on the
Director of
list.
Human Resources.
Actually, I don't believe he would be needed as part of this, so,
Okay.
so I think the names are correct.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Did we read all the names? It felt like did everybody say aye? Okay, all right. All right, we will now exit this meeting and reconvene in the Pikes Peak room. Thank you very much, everyone. All right. All right, the time is now 7:51 and the executive session has been concluded. Present at the executive session are the following persons: Mayor Othaniel Sierra, Mayor Pro Tem Joe Anderson, council members Jack Bethel, Tina Prang, Rita Russell, Rick Summerson, and Stephen Ward, City Manager Sean Lewis, Deputy City Attorney Victoria McDermott. I move to close the executive session. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Ward. Can we please vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Anderson.
Aye.
Member Bethel.
Aye.
Member Prang.
Aye.
Member Russell.
Aye.
Member Somerson.
Aye.
Member Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Sierra.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 ayes.
For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. All right, thank you very much. And after the discussion during the executive session, there are no further actions that will be taken. We are now moving on to discussion regarding next steps following the city manager's retirement announcement effective August 31st, 2026. Sean, I know that this is under city manager's report, but is this something that Tim or Sean, are there any steps that you want to cover as part of that? Just want to know what we've done in the past in terms of city manager's report. I can run it if you want me to just start off, but Sean, did you have anything to add here or?
Sean Weisky, Human Resources Director. I was here tonight to answer any questions about prior process that we had previously done in regards to a city manager recruitment, as well as provide answer any questions that council may have regarding that process.
Okay. Can you give an overview of what we've done in the past in terms of city managers recruitment as well as the city attorney's recruitment? Because I know we've done both of those in well, we used the same company. We used an executive search during that time. I think they were GovHR. But any further processes that we covered during those two executive searches?
Typically, we initiate the executive search firm by putting out an RFP and requesting that we find those who would like to participate in that executive search. And you're correct, in the past, we've always utilized an executive search firm, and that would also be my recommendation in this situation as well.
All right. Are there any questions for members of council? Go ahead, Member Ward.
Not really a question so much as a matter of process. Like I'm comfortable using an executive search firm to cast the net, but I'm not as comfortable using an executive search firm to throw fish off the boat. So I would kind of like to, as a body, get a survey of the candidates that have applied and then have us sort of try to work on a list of finalists rather than having the executive search firm perform that function.
Sean, do you happen to know how many candidates we normally get how many did we get as part of the city manager's last search back in 2019? Any idea?
I don't have those numbers. We actually have a new HRIS, so I don't have access to those numbers since that recruitment had occurred. But I would assume I've seen other city manager recruitments. Using an executive search firm, it does cast a wider net, but we're also looking at those passive candidates because those good candidates typically are not necessarily looking for the jobs. Some are, but some may be in a deputy role that they are perfectly happy with and may not be aware that this is open, and that's what those executive search firms do, is they look for those passive candidates and get them interested in our position here.
Go ahead, Steve, if there's something you want to add there.
I mean, I don't know that I have anything substantive to add. I would just like to take a vastly more hands-on approach to this than past councils have.
Okay.
Additionally, I believe that this body should talk about what we would like to see in a city manager's contract ahead of the time that comes. In the last cycle when we hired a city manager, I was a mere citizen and did not have the type of voice that I would have needed in order to correct a number of what I saw as structural defects in that particular contract. but I think there are some things that we would want to look to have included, and some things that we would like perhaps to not include in a city manager's contract for this cycle, and that should be something that a candidate would be informed of ahead of time.
Okay. Thank you, Member Ward. I think we're over here, Mayor Pro Tem and then Member Russell.
On the Member Ward's analogy of not, casting the net but not throwing out the fish, I think we may get way too many fish. And having some criteria, or at least giving the firm some criteria by which they can do that filtering, so we don't have to do that would be helpful. But starting with a larger pool of like qualified candidates, I think would be good from our perspective.
Member Russell.
Thank you. I agree with the Mayor Pro Tem, and I think an executive search firm, and I was on council the last time that we did. I agree with Councilmember Ward, but the search firm generally works through all of that information with us. I really think that having an executive search firm do it, but under our direction, is how it should be done. And I agree with the contract provisions too, that we will have that discussion also.
Thank you very much. Member Bethel and then Member Ward.
I think that one of the best ways for us to be effective in directing the executive search firm on candidates would be to work together to come up with an updated job description for the city manager. The way most job searches work, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is there's a list of keywords that are included in the filtering process, and when an application comes in, if it hits a certain number of keywords, it gets passed into a category of percentage rate of match. So if we work together for a job description that has what we're looking for, it can help filter that initial round of applications as they come through. Or we could specify that we want to see matches 80% and up or 90% and up. Or that we don't want to use any kind of automated filtering program at all. Maybe we only want it to be done by hand. That would be, I think, a different kind of search, and that might take more man hours or cost.
Member Ward.
I think Member Bethel just hit on one of my primary concerns. I don't want to hire a candidate who knows how to put the right buzzwords on his resume to impress somebody whose job it is to find executive candidates. I want the right candidate, period. And so this is one of the HR processes that has frustrated me. No offense to the profession intended, but if you don't fit inside this box that is pre-positioned in a certain way, you're not going to even have the opportunity to put yourself in front of the hiring board. And I think we risk missing out on some very valuable talent if we take that particular approach. And I'll admit that flies in the face of standard HR practice, and many people may deem it objectionable just for that reason. And I mean, we'll just have to differ on that. But the other thing that I wanted to point out before I lost my train of thought, I may have to bring back in here a second. It was an important. At what point does the process go from a closed private process to a public process? Because I think both this body and the potential candidates need to have an understanding of what is or isn't expected to be confidential throughout the process.
Sean, are you able to answer this? Because I remember this being part of I think both the city attorney and the city manager search, but go ahead.
So executive search firms, one of the benefit of using them is candidates are not going to be exposed to the public early on in the stage. It's really going to be toward the end of the process when their names would be released. And that's actually beneficial to the candidates, especially at this level where you're looking at these executives. They may not want their current employer to know that they are considering or looking for another organization to work at. So while I understand like wanting to look through things, early on, that could potentially cause a problem with the confidentiality provisions that we're trying to maintain so that people feel comfortable with applying for this position. So typically the names start to become more public toward the end of the process once they've sifted through a lot of the candidates.
And under state law, it's finalists that are required to be made public, and that's 14 days prior to any appointment. So usually, I think what we've done in the past is we identify 3 finalists or some number along those lines, and then 14 days prior to the appointment, you would have that disclosed.
And just for clarification, that state law is not necessarily, it speaks to when we have to disclose, but it doesn't prohibit prior disclosure.
Let me take a closer look at it. To see whether it's setting the floor or the ceiling, but it's part of Cora.
Okay, thank you.
Member Summerson and then Member Russell.
Thank you. I agree with folks so far in terms of using executive search firm. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think in addition to thinking about things that were brought up so far, like contract and job description, I think that is where we can also work as a body to determine where we might want to look for a uniquely qualified candidate or someone who may not fit within that box. And I think be very prescriptive and directive with the executive search firm of where we may want someone to reach in to, especially for some of those passive candidates that aren't simply deputy city manager from a different city, but perhaps hold a different or similarly responsible title within a university system or some other thing. So I think there's a way for us to work as a body for that. I think the questions that I have started to arise in some ways in terms of what's public, what's not public. Do we have I think all 7 of us have expressed an interest in having a hands-on approach, being involved, being part of this process to make sure that it's done to the best of our ability on behalf of the residents of Englewood. And so, are there working groups, or when do we determine when the mayor is the representative for the body, especially if there happen to be any of those sort of more passive meet and greets or whatever, where there may be someone from the body that is representative of the dialogue with said candidates or whatnot. So anyway, I just think there's a lot to discuss and quickly, which is the other thing, I guess, is just sort of the time frame for being able to have all of us weigh in appropriately, think appropriately, do thought work together appropriately, move forward in a manner that we all agree on is the best way to move forward. And so thinking about kind of the essence of time, but not wanting to rush through a process that will have large implications for the city.
Thank you very much, Member Summerson. Member Russell, did you have something to add? Go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say, in the past, we have always done, not made the names public until the finalists. And if we would choose to do that, we're probably going to eliminate some candidates because they don't necessarily want to lose their job. And even when they become a finalist, if they're not certain that it's probably going to be them, they may drop out also. So I think that's pretty standard.
Yeah. Thank you, Member Russell. Member Prang.
Thank you. I agree with much of what's been said as well, especially the use of the executive search firm. I guess I just have some questions about, given the time constraints and how to move forward, how do we do those pieces of work on the job description, on preferred qualities, et cetera? Is that an agenda item in a meeting? Is that work that the mayor kind of assigns us to? We're reviewing the job description kind of outside of meetings and then coming forward with our list of preferences. Like, I just would like to better understand how those pieces
That
work.
was going to be a question that I was going to ask Director Weisky, just find out, is it a study session? Is that an executive session for the job description? As well as, well, we would also have to choose an executive search firm. So that would be a decision that would, and that should be a study session item. But can you take us through those steps of if we were to move forward with an executive search, the contract language, job search, like, is that done in an open session or is that an executive session? Go ahead.
As far as open or executive, I would defer to the city attorney on that question on the appropriate venue.
Sure. So I think the best approach, so the executive session for personnel matters is about a specific employee. Something of this nature should be in an open public meeting. We would recommend perhaps a study session where council gives the direction to staff about what they want to see in the job description. And then the contract would come to council on a regular agenda item, so that would be a regular meeting. So I think those would be our recommendations on how we can see that process playing out. And also the 14 days is no later than, so should council have those finalists earlier, that could be made public earlier.
Go ahead, John.
And I believe the other question was regarding the selecting of the search firm, right? So I'm ready to initiate the RFP process tomorrow. I have that drafted all ready to go, so we can get that process moving. Once we gather those proposals, I would also defer to the city attorney on the appropriate venue for you all selecting that, but that would be the process to be able to get those potential executive search firms to you, would be going through the RFP process.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. I'll come to you here in the second member ward. I know that a couple of cities in the metro area just went through or are going through a city manager search. Can we reach out to them to find out like what their, if they have any recommendations for a executive search firm, whether on the plus or the negative in terms of who they looked at? I think that may help us get to a decision quicker. And I could provide you the names of the cities that I'm aware of.
Absolutely, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Member Ward? And actually, members of council, if you guys are opposed to me getting that information from those cities, let me know. But I just know there's 3 of them that just went through that process. Member Ward?
I think that's a great idea, Mayor. And as far as the qualifications and discussion of the qualifications go, the thing that comes to mind to me is that a workshop would probably benefit us. Something aside from a regular study session night, when we can push our full undivided attention single-mindedly focused on this one particular task as a body. I would be willing to sacrifice an extra day for that, considering this is a decision that is going to affect the future of the city.
Thank you, Member Ward. I think we would have no choice with the size of our agendas coming up. So, but thank you for that, Member Summerson. Go ahead.
I would echo Member Ward's comments there. I think it's important to be singularly focused on this. Sorry, it was so brilliant, I forgot what I was going to say now, actually. So, come back to me.
All right. Is there anything else? So then, in terms of we wouldn't need to have the job description until we actually selected an executive search firm, and so that's when we would need the job description. So we have time on that piece. Okay. Member Summerson, did it come back to you?
It did. Thank you for the moment. The RFP, I think similar to what we were discussing about wanting to be able to possibly find a uniquely qualified candidate, both through their work experience, life experience, et cetera. I just want to make sure that there's some sort of language referencing that within the RFP itself, so that we're looking for an executive search firm that understands what we mean when we are saying we need someone who can go do more than just find people with deputy city manager titles or city managers in cities smaller than 35,000 people or whatever. So
I have confidence that the search firms that we would be considering would absolutely do that. I wouldn't go with a search firm that I wasn't familiar with or that I knew was not abiding by best practices. So it's very well received, and absolutely I'll make sure that that's the case.
All right. Anything further from members of council? Anything that we may have not covered as part of this discussion? Go ahead, Member Prang.
Will we, and at what time will we have a discussion to appoint an interim if needed? I'm assuming that will be needed.
It's a good question. I think that's something that we'll have to put on, I believe we have to put it on the agenda as a line item, right? So I'm thinking that, obviously we could do it next Monday night if needed. It's a pretty heavy agenda. I'm guessing that we probably want to have a discussion about it that evening. So my suggestion would be to have it the first week of August. Does that make sense, Member Weisky, or should we be doing it sooner than that?
I think that depends on who you plan on appointing to the role.
Right.
If you plan on appointing someone who kind of can step in on day one, I think you can wait to do that appointment. If you're thinking that that person is going to need more lead time to be able to get up to speed, I would do it sooner rather than later.
We can add it as an item for Mayor's Choice this coming Monday night if we want to have that discussion.
I mean, I do think that starting that conversation sooner is probably wise, even if we're not making a final decision, because I do think kind of the preparation, the mental preparation of the person that potentially is desired to fill that role, and then any implications. So say it were to be, someone internal to the city, then also within a department, or, wherever we decide to pull from, having some preparation of adjustments for a temporary period of time. And so I would prefer, and I think Monday, I would be prepared on Monday to even state some preferences for that. So if we can do it Monday, I'd love that.
I would be open to that. Member Summerson.
I would agree that we would need to start that discussion sooner rather than later. I guess information I would want to know ahead of that discussion is, if we were thinking within the city, what is the pool? What are the rules? Like, who could we not consider? Who can we consider? Is the discussion on Monday about that, or is it about people in particular? I guess I'm just trying to understand a little bit more about where to go with the current thoughts, right? Which don't have names attached to them, but more have the idea of like, is the full slate of directors in the city available options? Is the city attorney an option? Is there, right? Like, where are options to think about the bench for this, knowing that it seems like we may have some time before we get a search firm on board. I think we're doing the right work in terms of making sure we're trained and workshopped properly on doing this correct. And that's just going to take some time, regardless of how available we make ourselves. And so it is more than 100% certain we're going to have an interim, right? And so I think I'm just trying to figure out a little bit more about that so that we can either be more prepared Monday for discussion. That makes sense.
Director Weisky, is that something that you're able to pull? I'm just wondering if some of that is also not necessarily contractual, but operationally, are we able to choose from the director pool as well?
Yes, we have an acting pay policy that allows for folks to step into a higher level role, including the city manager role, if that is needed. So there is a mechanism for that. There's not a recruitment process for the acting pay process. You would just select somebody who you would want to step into that role. The only provision that we have in there is that they have to actually qualify for the job that they're going to be acting in.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further from members of council? So what I did hear is that we will have the discussion this coming Monday night. If you could put something in writing for us for that evening, Director Weisky, in terms of who's part of the overall bench that we can consider. But we would add that as a item under Mayor's Choice. And then the further, once we get closer to selecting an executive search firm, that's when we would make a decision in terms of how involved we would be in terms of the number of candidates that we screen, I guess, in a sense, whether or not we're going to come back with the top 3 or the top 5, whether or not we're going to do a meet and greet. All of that we cover as part of the next steps after the executive, or maybe even as part of the workshop that was discussed. That may be a place for it potentially.
Yeah, it could be at any of those venues. Typically, what I would suggest is that depending on how their recruitment goes, you may end up with 8 or 9 candidates that are great candidates, and so I wouldn't want you to artificially select that you're only going to meet 3 at the very beginning when maybe you want to meet all 8 or 9. Right. So I would say that we would talk with the executive search firm, come up with some parameters that are flexible, and then that's how I would recommend you all proceed, so that you're not boxing yourself in.
I think that's what we did with the last city manager search, because I do recall us getting a list of several candidates, and I think we came back to 3, maybe 4. I can't recall, but so, okay. All right, anything further from members of council? All right. Director Weisky, thank you so much. Sean, I guess we still technically have a city manager's report. Is there anything for you to add?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one item based on a council question, yours, in fact, Mayor, about the cooling centers. As you know, we've got some pretty severe weather coming up, and I'd like to give credit to former Councilmember Kim Wright for really pushing us, and to Tim Dodd for getting the standard operating procedures together for how we are dealing with both severe weather sheltering as well as heat. And so we will be activating during normal business hours because in response to heat advisories that we receive from the National Weather Service. So extreme heat watch or extreme heat warning may be issued by the National Weather Service, or if temperatures are expected to exceed 100 degrees during the day in Inglewood, Littleton, or Sheridan. Cooling centers that are normally open to the public may use discretion to activate services whenever temperatures approach, but do not strictly meet the activation threshold. So, if it's maybe extra humid, but a little less than that, we might still be opening. We also are looking, thanks to the leadership in the library, at a water bottle filling station. So that's something that we're working on. We're hoping to have that by the end of this heat season, but it's something that we also want to provide in addition. So thank you for that question, and glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, City Manager. And that was a nod to Member Wright, because that was her passion to make sure that we were doing that. So she's no longer on council, but we should still continue that practice. So I appreciate that note, City Manager. With that, everyone, we are now adjourned. It's 8:20. We will see you all next Monday night. Have a good evening.